So the church has become a spectacle of marvelous beauty, overwhelming to those who see it, but to those who know it by hearsay, altogether incredible. First, it soars to a height to match the sky, and if surging from amongst the other buildings, it stands on high and looks down upon the remainder of the city. Whether a visitor in the 6th century or the modern tourist in the 21st, the Hagia Sophia, officially the Church of God's Holy Wisdom, represents an architectural marvel. However, to the 6th century subjects of the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire, it was also a powerful statement attesting to the collective unification of all subjects under Christianity and the authority of the Emperor Justinian. To Emperor Justinian, the construction of the Hagia Sophia marked a victory in a revolt that nearly overthrew him early in his reign. Once completed, the Hagia Sophia would continue to serve as a monument to Justinian's absolute and unquestioned authority in the realm. To some, it may seem strange that there was any real challenge to Emperor Justinian's reign from 527 to 565 AD. He is, after all, referred to as Justinian the Great for his many accomplishments. He was the last emperor that was able to reconquer meaningful portions of the western half of the old Roman Empire that had been lost to Germanic invasion. Justinian's generals were able to defeat the Vandals in North Africa, the Ostrogoths in Italy, and Visigoths in southern Spain. Under Justinian, the Byzantine Empire reached its greatest territorial extent. In the field of law, the Corpus Juris Civilis, or body of civil law, was published. It consisted of select pre-existing imperial laws, excerpts from various Roman juris, and Justinian's own laws, along with an accompanying textbook for students. So synonymous is this work with Justinian that it is often referred to as the Code of Justinian. Unsurprisingly, many ideas in this publication eventually found their way into a number of European law codes. Here we have an excerpt from the Corpus Juris Civilis, which appears to touch upon the idea of presumed innocence and the opportunity for the accused to defend oneself in court, a familiar ideal found in many modern societies. When anyone who is absent is charged with serious crimes, sentence is not usually pronounced against him at once, but he is notified to appear, not for the purpose of being punished, but that an opportunity may be afforded him to clear himself, provided he can do so. If, after having been notified, he should return within a year and clear himself of the crime, he shall receive his property which has been sealed by order of court. So, if Justinian was so accomplished, how could there be an internal rebellion that nearly usurped him, and how is the Hagia Sophia related to it? To answer this, we have to start with Justinian's family lineage, which was a peasant one originating from Teresium, located in modern-day North Macedonia. Justinian's rise in station is owed wholly to his uncle Justin. His uncle Justin, by all accounts a swineherd or a person that raises and herds pigs, traveled to the capital of Constantinople to seek his fortune. He joined the Byzantine army, taking part in a number of military campaigns. Justin had a remarkable career within the military, eventually rising to the dizzying rank of commander of the palace guards to Emperor Anastasius. The uncle Justin's advancement afforded Justinian a fast track into the Byzantine elite. The young Justinian was afforded an education in law, religion, military tactics, and history. When Emperor Anastasius died childless, his uncle Justin took power as emperor. When Emperor Justin died, his nephew Justinian became emperor. It might come as a surprise that Justinian's real name was Flavius Petrus Sabatius. However, when he was adopted by his uncle Justin, he changed his name to Justinian. You can imagine that neither Justin's followed by Justinian's coronation as Roman emperors were palatable to the existing Byzantine aristocracy. To add insult to injury, Justinian failed to marry a woman from a noble bloodline to cement his legitimacy and repair the class divide with the aristocracy. Finally, and perhaps most unforgivable, was Justinian's choice of wife, a commoner named Theodora, who was an actress in quotation marks for a theatrical troupe. The vitriol regarding the Empress Theodora's background cannot be understated. She never succumbed to these transports, for she often went to a supper at which each one paid his share, with 10 or more young men, in the full vigor of their age and practiced in debauchery, and would pass the whole night with all of them. When they were all exhausted, she would go to their servants, 30 in number it may be, and fornicate with each one of them, and yet not even so did she quench her lust. Other controversial actions by Justinian included tax reforms, particularly improving collections to fuel his building projects and military expeditions. He also took sides on major controversial Christian theological issues. It can't be understated how important Christianity was in defining the Byzantine Empire. During Justinian's time, there was a considerable divide amongst Christians regarding the nature of Jesus Christ, with large portions of the population, including the Empress Theodora herself, espousing the monophysite view that Jesus Christ had a single divine nature. Diophysitism, on the other hand, espoused the now accepted view that Jesus Christ was one person of one substance with two inseparable natures, divine and human. Justinian was far more of a Diophysite, and throughout his reign took different approaches to address this issue by trying to convince, compromise, as well as persecute those that believed that Jesus Christ was purely divine in nature. The troubles that almost led to Justinian's downfall began on January 10th, 532 AD. On this day, members of ostensibly supporters of two separate chariot teams, a member of the Blues and a member of the Greens, were apprehended for violence and sentenced to execution. I say ostensibly because although the Blues, the Greens, the Reds, and the Whites had begun as a way for individuals to express loyalty to favorite charioteers, they had slowly morphed into factions akin to street gangs in Constantinople, with considerable political capital. In fact, it was not uncommon for these factions to make political demands in between the chariot races, which were taken seriously by the imperial government. Anyway, the execution of these two individuals was botched, and the Blues and Greens asked for clemency from the emperor. When this request went unanswered, the Blues and Greens united and began a riot in the Hippodrome, which quickly spread throughout the city, starting a fire that burned down the Hagia Sophia. This is referred to as the Nika riot, Nika meaning conquer in Greek, which was a spectator cheer. The Hippodrome where these races took place is quite close to the Hagia Sophia, hippo meaning horse and dromos meaning race. For the modern visitor, the obelisk of Egyptian pharaoh Thutmose III and the serpent column from Delphi are both present as they were at the time of the riots. As previously mentioned, this riot resulted in the Hagia Sophia burning down. There was in fact 3 Hagia Sophias. The first erected by Emperor Constantine, who founded Constantinople, which was destroyed in a fire. The Hagia Sophia was reconstructed under Emperor Theodosius, but was burned down during the Nika riots. The third reconstruction that the modern visitor sees is the reconstruction under Emperor Justinian. Just as an aside, one of the few remaining portions of the Hagia Sophia that burned down during the Nika riots is still present to see. This lintel with sheep. The Nika riots didn't start off explicitly to overthrow Justinian. However, the Byzantine aristocracy quickly recognized this as an opportunity to do just that, for many of the reasons discussed previously. The mob, at the urging of the aristocracy, demanded that the nephew of the old Emperor Anastasius, whom Justinian's uncle had succeeded, be installed as a new emperor. Justinian did order his generals to disperse the rioters, however this proved unsuccessful. As the revolt grew and the danger to his reign became apparent, Justinian personally traveled to the Hippodrome to negotiate a compromise which would still leave him in control. However, this too was unsuccessful. Popular account states that Justinian was set to flee Constantinople as his situation rapidly deteriorated. However, his wife, the Empress Theodora, refused. It was because of Theodora's bravery that Justinian chose to remain in Constantinople and order his imperial troops against the mob at the Hippodrome, leading to a great slaughter. If ancient accounts are to be believed, 35,000 people were killed primarily in and around the Hippodrome. So terrible was the carnage that chariot races did not resume at the Hippodrome for another 5 years. At the same time, members of the aristocracy involved with the Nika riots were apprehended by imperial agents and executed. Some might see it as poetic justice that the Empress Theodora was pivotal to the violent ending of this revolt, given the many terrible things said of her by her detractors, some of whom were involved in this attempted coup. Her background as an actress was undoubtedly one of the reasons cited as to why Justinian was unfit to be emperor. Justinian's rule was solidified, and he immediately set forth on rebuilding the Hagia Sophia. One interesting point is that about a month and a half following the end of the riot, construction of the Hagia Sophia began. This has led many to believe that Justinian already had plans for a great church, the likes of which had never been seen, and the Nika riots just happened to provide the opportunity to build it in the heart of Constantinople. It's strange to see that this beautiful church was built following one of the most turbulent and violent events of Justinian's reign, and more than being an archaeological marvel, was a symbol of Justinian's unquestioned power. Justinian would certainly have been happy with this 10th century mosaic located in the southwestern vestibule of the Hagia Sophia. Centered is the Virgin Mary holding the infant Jesus. To the right of her is the Emperor Constantine, the founder of Constantinople, offering her the city. The inscription beside him reading, "Constantine, the great emperor amongst the saints." To the left of the Virgin Mary is the Emperor Justinian, offering her the Hagia Sophia itself. The inscription beside him reading, "Justinian, Emperor of illustrious memory." His legacy was memorialized. We can only wonder how different his reign would have been if the Nika riot had never happened and he never rebuilt the Hagia Sophia as one of the great wonders of the world. If you enjoyed this talk, please like, subscribe, comment, and share with others.